Welcome to my next From Season 2 episode review video. Before I get into that, though, pretty important. If you're not caught up to the point where I am every watching you're watching from, or you're just not entirely sure, then you definitely need to take the initiative and pay attention to the episode's title, which of course I'll mention as well as put in the description. If that happens to be the case, you find that you're not caught up, it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this video any further to avoid any potential spoilers. Now, I've already seen every episode of From thus far that's been released. I'm getting ready for Season 3 of From. I'm reviewing every single episode, which I'll have done before Season 3 comes out, although I'm cutting it close here. I've only got essentially like 10 days left or something like that. So, I like the show. I think it's a good show. Is it amazing? No, but it's entertaining. I'm a little worried that it might have a lackluster ending, like a bad M. Night Shyamalan twist, but that remains to be seen. But I like the show Lost, and this reminds me, to a degree, of Lost, and some of the people behind Lost are connected with this show. So with all that said, this will be from Season 2, Episode 3. The title of this episode is called Tether, and this will be my review reaction recap after just finishing watching the episode. Boyd looks in the mirror at his arm, trying to detect the worms. He then tells Ellis about going into the faraway tree. Ellis asks him where Sarah is and whether or not she is alive. Boyd says he does not know, and Ellis continues to struggle with the idea of teleportation via a tree. An increasingly irate Ellis asks him if he is hiding something, reminding him that he went out to find answers but instead came back and they are right where they started. Boyd asks him what is going on, and Ellis calms down and explains that things were bad and the previous night it was bad and it affected Fatima. Ellis worries that he is seeing Fatima slip away. Boyd tells him that Ellis has to be there for her so she has something to lean on, and that they will not let this place win. The two hug, and Ellis goes to help Kenny with the animal traps. Boyd tells him to get someone else to do it and go help Fatima, but Ellis says he was going to use it as an opportunity to gather some wildflowers that he knows she likes. Before he leaves, Boyd teases him about the ring, telling him to get a better one, and Ellis tells his father that he is glad that he's back. Christy finishes patching up Jim as his family watches. Jim tries to rise to leave, but the pain prevents him, and Christy tells him that he has cracked ribs and likely a bruised lung and he needs to rest. Christy asks Tabitha how she is doing, and she says she's fine. Noticing Marielle has entered, Christy leaves to go talk to her. Jim then asks Julie and Ethan for privacy before telling her that he thought she was dead and he can't lose her. She tells him that the wires weren't connected to anything. Jim asks how the kids are holding up, and Tabitha admits that she doesn't know. The two say they love each other and they kiss. Tilly, Elgin, and Bakata and the rest of the passengers unpack their belongings. Donna tries to confiscate Randall's rifle, but he refuses to give it up. Boyd arrives and explains that the rule is that residents don't carry guns. Randall rudely refuses him again, and Boyd, losing patience, tells him he can either follow the rules or try making it on his own in the woods. Randall hands over the rifle, and Boyd tells the bus passengers that they will have their questions answered, but they are all in this together and need to work through it together. Donna then leads the bus to the colony house. Tabitha gets breakfast with her children. Ethan asks if they can see Victor, but Tabitha says he has had a rough few days. Ethan says he hopes Victor is not mad at him because he and Jade were in his room looking for clues, even though he told Jade that Victor would not like it. Ethan then asks if they will be able to get their belongings out of the rubble, and Tabitha says she does not know and leaves to go talk to Tin Chen. Tabitha asks Tin Chen, who oversees many of the town's supplies, if she can go through some of the storage for supplies and clothing, because she has done potentially. And Tin Chen offers to host her family, saying that mothers help each other, and that makes Tabitha a little bit reassured. Donna asks Boyd if he heard about Christy's fiance, and Boyd asks how they are on supplies. And Donna says that between the storm wiping out half their crops and the bus arriving, they will need to get serious about rationing. Donna adds that Bakata, I'm not sure, I haven't heard her name yet in the show. At least this time around, it's been a while since, a year since I watched it approximately. Said there were 25 people aboard, and between the diner survivors and the bodies they found, they have counted for 22 people. Donna blames her for scaring people off by firing the shotgun, but Boyd tells her to focus on the people she saved, and then Donna asks if he will tell her what happened. Kenny checks the traps while Ellis gathers flowers. The traps are empty, and Kenny angrily asks for help. Ellis says he understands that Kenny is bent out of shape by the Christie situation, but stops before he can say more. Kenny then asks for help in finding the iron rod that props the traps. The two then hear music, followed by the sound, until they find a phone playing next to a body of a girl from the bus whose head is actually pinned to the tree by the iron rod that Kenny was searching for. Ellis is shocked while Kenny prepares to remove the body. Kelly then gasps for breath, shocking them. Kenny runs to get Christie while Ellis stays with Kelly, who asks Ellis for help. So Kelly is the one that was in the bar with her boyfriend Brian, and then the creature knocked, and she opened the door. He opened the door, and then it was all she wrote for them. But apparently Kelly somehow, some way, is still alive. Victor returns to his room in the colony house and finds it ransacked as a result of Jade. However, he finds something is missing and begins panicking. Clara enters and tells Victor that she is glad that he is okay, but Victor asks if anybody was in his room. Clara says that she saw Jade and Ethan in his room the previous night. Jade plays the violin he got from Victor's room. Victor arrives and demands the violin he be returned to him. Jade apologizes and says it was just thought he could play it for a bit, but Victor angrily repeats his demand. Jade returns the violin and tells Jade not to go in his room. Jade apologizes again and then asks Victor about the symbol in the journal with a picture of him in the background. Victor stops to look, and then Jade tries to get him to explain it, believing it to be the key to escaping. Jade asks him if he wants to escape after all the time, but Victor merely tells him to stay away from him and leaves. Christie finds Marielle in her bedroom holding a painted rock, and Christie says it got faded by how much she carried it when she first arrived. Christie tells her she knows this is a lot, but promises they will get through it together. Marielle has difficult adjusting and needs time for things to get back to normal between them. Kenny then arrives shouting for Christie, saying they need her help. Christie tells Marielle she loves her and then leaves with Kenny. Kelly tells Ellis that, strangely, the metal rod in her head doesn't hurt. Kelly and Ellis introduce themselves, and Kelly asks where they are. Ellis says they are in the woods outside the town. Kelly asks how they're in the woods and flashes back to when her and Brian were in the bar and how the creatures came in and killed Brian. Kelly explains that they dragged them out there and made her watch as they killed him and told her they wanted to play with her. Kenny arrives with Christie, and Kelly asks her if it's bad and begins panicking. Christie tells her to hold her hand while she looks at her wound. Jim notices the exit sign above the door flickering and painfully rises to try and look at the wires. Tilly then arrives looking for Christie, and Jim tells her that she had to run out, but asks if he can help her, and Tilly realizes that Jim was the man trapped under the house and says that Brick sat across the aisle from her on the bus. Tilly begins to leave, but Jim asks her where they were going on the bus, and Tilly says that they were going to the racetrack to bet on the horses and has been visiting racetracks across the country. Jim asks if it was a charter bus, but Tilly does not know. Jim then asks her what's in her bag, and Tilly remarks that he asked too many questions. Jim tries to ask one more, but collapses from the pain, and Tilly calls for help. Marielle arrives and helps Jim onto a chair. Marielle goes to look for an aspirin, and Tilly tells Jim that Marielle is Christie's fiancée, shocking him. Fatima tells Elgin that she is his proxy and will help him adjust. Elgin asks her how long she has been there, and Fatima tells him a year. Elgin then asks if there is a nearby lake or pond, and Fatima leads him to the Brundles. He asks about the name, and she explains that it was called that before she arrived. Fatima asks Elgin how he knew about it, and he says he saw it and realizes that Elgin was the one on the bus who had the dream. Fatima tells him that many people have strange dreams or premonitions, recalling that Nadia used to say it was like the place was calling out to them, but only one were only some were listening close enough to hear. Fatima tells him that people have been obsessed over dreams, but none of them have been able to come up with any answers thus far. Christy tells Kenny and Ellis that even if they were in a hospital, it would be a 15-hour operation. Ellis wants to try and free her, but Christy thinks their only option is to mercy kill her by pulling out the rod. Ellis asks if it will be peaceful, and Christy says she doesn't know. Kenny offers to shoot her, but Christy does not want her final moments to be with a gun to her head, and Kelly realizes that she is not going to be okay, and Christy tells her that she is going to die. Julie and Tabitha sort through old clothes. Julie complains about having to look through old clothes while Ethan gets to pick out new toys with Mrs. Liu. Tabitha tells her that this is what being an adult looks like. Tabitha finds a cardigan for Julie, who finds the fact that all the clothes belonging to dead people creepy, but her mother says it's the same as a thrift store. Julie asks if they are living with the Luz now, and Jade are living with the Luz and Jade now. Tabitha says at least until Jim is back on his feet, but stops short as she sees vision of two ghoulish children standing in front of them, and Julie notices her mother's reaction and becomes concerned, asking what is wrong. Tabitha tells her she's fine and briskly walks home. Boyd visits his wife's grave, telling her that he is back sooner than expected, but he has some news, informing her that Ellis is engaged. Boyd ponders whether any of this is real or he is in a coma dreaming about everyone or everything. He asks how Martin knew about her. Julie asks her mother what happened at the barn. Tabitha tries to brush it off, the question, but Julie demands that she talk to her. Julie says she spent the entire night in the diner thinking that she was going to have to take care of Ethan by herself because she thought Tabitha was dead and Jim was going to get killed by the creatures, and asks her mother to be truthful. Tabitha admits she had a vision, and it isn't the first time, explaining that after Thomas's death, she used to hear the sound of his crying all the time. Julie asks if she saw Thomas, but Tabitha says it was something different. It was two children staring at her. Kelly asks for Ellis and Kenny. Kenny tells them they are very nice and asks for her phone so he can call her mother. Christy tells her that the phones don't work, but offers to write a message down for her. And Kelly suffices with that and tells Christy to tell her mother that she loves her and apologizes for not giving her a hug. Kelly explains that she was mad over something stupid, so she left without giving her one. Kelly then begins screaming in pain, and they struggle to decide over who should pull the rod out to kill her when Boyd arrives. Boyd tells them that it's his job to do it, and while Christy holds her hands, Boyd pulls the rod out, killing Kelly. I mean, Kelly was already dead, but she wasn't. Christy returns to the clinic, extremely shaken and tearful, and tearfully tells Marielle that she needs her to stay. Marielle holds Christy as she cries. By the root cellar, Kenny tells Ellis that he is going to the church to see if there's anything he can read at the service. Before he leaves, Ellis reminds him that this was the fault of the creatures, not any of them. Ellis finds Fatima sitting by the window. Fatima tells Ellis to promise her that things won't always be this way. Ellis suggests that they get married, not wanting the town to be the thing that decides whether or not they get married, and Fatima happily agrees, delighting Ellis. Ethan plays with a wooden block puzzle that he got from Team Chen, stacking them up in a tower. Tabitha tells him that she knows he likes to view everything like a quest, but Ethan cuts her short and says he knows that things are dangerous and promises to be careful. Ethan completes the tower puzzle, and the shape is similar to the stacked rocks she saw in the tunnels. Tabitha then sees two ghoulish children, or ghostly children, staring at her, and she ushers Ethan inside. Donna works in the greenhouse outside the Connolly house. Boyd finds her, and the two commiserate about their bad days. Boyd explains what happened to Kelly and Brian. Donna is shocked, and Boyd says it reminded him of something from his first tour in Iraq, when a comrade of his died in his arms, the first person he ever saw die. Boyd tells her that his name was Brian Kelly. Brian and Kelly were killed in the bar. Well, technically Kelly was killed by just pulling the rod out, but and expresses shock that he just killed a girl, and his first thought was to wonder if any of it was real. Donna asks him what happened in the forest and scolds him for dumping his stuff on her. Donna tells him that she needs to know he is back because she tried to step into his shoes and got a bunch of people killed, and because the people are at their wits' ends as she is. Then we have Kenny looking through Father Cautre's belongings to see if he can find anything for the funeral service. However, he hears a clattering downstairs and heads down with his weapon drawn, and he finds Sarah, who says, "Hi, Kenny," and that's what ends this episode of From. So, we didn't have a lot of action. We had a lot of development, a lot of this is what happened here, this and this. I'll give the episode a 7.2 out of 10, and my characters of the episode, I'm going to go with Boyd and Christy. So you've heard everything that I have to say. Now it's your turn. If you're a fan of From and you want to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, please consider Hulk smashing the like button, share the video with a friend, put this video on any one of your social media platforms. Don't forget to sound off in the comment section about what your thoughts are on this episode of From. What would you score the episode, and whom, if you had to choose, would be your character or characters of the episode? Remember to come back to the channel. I'll be doing Season 3 reviews of From as they happen. Not sure what time, but within 24 hours of the episode airing. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button, subscribe to the channel, join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And you never know what you're going to see on JDevTV.